So, are you and your partner on opposite sides of the political spectrum? Or maybe you have a few big issues that you just can't agree on. One of the questions that comes up for me all the time from friends who find themselves in this situation is, can our relationship survive this? Now, truth of the matter is, we all know relationships between opposites. A die-hard video gamer can have a great relationship with someone who has never played a video game. Many of us probably know a Sunday afternoon football fanatic who is married to someone whose main passion is arts and crafts. I certainly know vegetarians and meat lovers who have had a wonderful 50-year relationship. So today, I'm going to talk about why political differences can often feel really unique, special, and more challenging than some of the other differences I just mentioned. And I'm going to share with you 3 key tips for sustaining a strong relationship with your partner through these differences. Okay, so why is politics different? I think a number of reasons, right? For many of us, our political views connect also to deeply held values, to stories we tell about ourselves, who we are in the universe, and what we want the world to be like. So for example, somebody who believes that the way I've been successful is because of my own hard work and energy might actually clash with the story someone else tells about that person who's looking through a lens of just its white privilege. Another challenge is that sometimes a political stake might feel academic for one member of the couple and actually very consequential for the other. Think, for example, abortion rights. For one member of the couple, it actually might feel very consequential for their life, and for maybe the other, it feels a little bit more academic. Similar kinds of differences can occur around conversations involving race or religious liberty or LGBTQ rights. I think a third reason why we sometimes find political differences harder to work through in a romantic relationship is that we are in a moment in our society where there's a very high salience of political polarization in the world. In fact, for the first time in US history, parents would rather see their kids marry someone of a different religious faith than someone who has opposing political views. And so this high salience of politics and polarization in our world make this a highly sensitive and emotional challenge for couples who have very different political views. But it is not hopeless. There are some things you can do to increase the likelihood of having a blissful, strong, and intimate relationship with your partner, even across political difference. So the first step here is building something that I call conflict resilience. So what do I mean by conflict resilience? Conflict resilience is really your ability to sit with your own discomfort when you don't see eye to eye with someone. So that means a number of things. It means listening generously when you hear ideas, conclusions, and opinions that do not align with your own. It also means finding a way to speak with authenticity and integrity and honesty about how you see things, but also in a way that is skillful enough that the other person in the relationship can actually hear you. And one of the real challenges we have in this moment is that many of us have a reduced amount of conflict resilience in our own lives. There are many reasons for this, but if you want to survive in a romantic relationship where you have highly different political views, you have to build up your own conflict resilience. Second is working with your significant other to establish some agreed upon ground rules about whether and how you will talk about political issues with your partner. So specifically, right, you may decide that there are some issues that are simply off limits, and that maybe there are some issues that you're prepared to have a conversation about, but that you want to agree upon the when and the where and the how. So let me give you an example. I have a friend who, during COVID, had very severe differences with a significant other about the level of COVID restriction that their family should take. Now, this is extremely challenging because if you remember during the early parts of the pandemic, people were pretty much trapped at home with their significant other. And so their relationship at this time went through a really serious challenge. But one thing that worked for them is that they each developed what they called safe words and timeouts. And when a safe word was called, it basically was saying, we're going to stop this conversation now. We will agree to come back to it at a time when both of us feel ready to do it. The third important tip I have, if you are in a romantic relationship with someone who has different political views than yours, it actually is really important for you to work to find others who actually have aligned views with yours. The purpose of this is actually not to increase polarization, but at moments when you need support, or you need a sense of affiliation and a sense of connection, having folks that you can turn to and talk with makes a real difference. In some sense, this is not a profound insight, right? If you love to play bridge and your significant other doesn't, you join a bridge club. You don't force your significant other to play bridge with you. But the same is true, and especially so, around politics. If you are highly activated around climate change and your partner thinks completely differently, finding some people you can connect with who share your views, who share your sense of activism will make a really big difference. A few years ago during the 2020 campaign cycle, I had the opportunity to do some canvassing work on behalf of Pete Buttigieg in New Hampshire. Now, for those of you who have canvassed before, you know that involves ringing doorbells of random people to talk about your candidate. So there was this incredible moment where I rang a doorbell and the person who answered was, I would guess, in her late 70s and early 80s. Turned out she was not a fan of Pete Buttigieg, but she was aligned generally with Democrats. And after about 2 minutes of talking, she said, oh, can I walk with you to talk a little bit more about what's going on in my household? And I said, sure, yep, we're just walking down the block, join us. Within a few minutes, this woman was in tears. She was in a marriage of 52 years, which she described as largely blissful until the last 2 years. Her husband was a strong supporter of President Trump, and she was a supporter of then candidate Biden. And she felt incredibly isolated and completely alone, and that she was losing him. And what became clear is simply walking with this woman for 15 minutes was incredibly enlivening to her, that her lack of connection to somebody who shared political views of her own had made her feel incredibly lonely and incredibly lost in her own relationship. And so I had this sense that even as she turned around to go back to her house, that she felt energized just knowing that she had connected with people who shared her own views. And so we need that sustenance in order to make sure that we can stay energized in the romantic relationship that we have when we're not seeing eye to eye. So, as we conclude, let me simply say, whether you decide to be in a romantic relationship with someone with different political views is obviously a very personal decision. But I feel very confident that it is possible to do and that you could do it in a healthy way. 3 tips I want to share with you once again are: first, work to build your own conflict resilience. Secondly, establish with your partner clear ground rules about whether, when, and how you will talk about these issues of difference. And finally, work to find others who share your own views, not for the purpose of increasing polarization, but so that you can get the sense of support, affiliation, and connection that you need so that you can actually remain present in the relationship with your significant other. If you want some tips on how to have difficult conversations with your significant other, keep watching this next video, which is there a better way to talk about hot button issues such as abortion, guns, and queer rights? Also, I'd be incredibly grateful if you would like this video, ring the bell to get notifications on new videos, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Okay, you know you want to have those difficult conversations better. Keep watching.